වීඩියෝ ඇමතුම්ද සමග මැසෙන්ජර් සේවාවන් රැසකට සහ POTV Go සඳහා නොමිලේ ඩේටා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජි රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, shock to the system. COVID-19 infections in the island creeping up on 600. 6 more meanwhile discharged after recovery. Protecting COVID-19 frontline. Presidential task force appointed to ensure health security at military camps. Achievements. Ordinary level results released under the coronavirus cloud. Stellar job. New Zealand says it has stopped community transmission of COVID-19, effectively eliminating the virus. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Monday, the 27th of April, 2020.
SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම 100 ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamkate Mike. Let's start with your local stories. Now, Sri Lanka has seen a significant spike in the number of COVID-19 cases, with the country passing the 500 mark late last evening. Since then, close to 50 cases have, more like actually over 50 cases have been reported, with 60 actually being added to the tally today, placing the overall number of infections in the island at 582. Now, there are 180 naval personnel among that number, which makes them the chief contributors to the recent surge in COVID-19 cases. Now, it has to be noted that naval personnel were at the front line in the battle against COVID-19, making them vulnerable to infection. From the infected pool of naval personnel, 112 are from within the Valisara Navy base and 68 have been those who have been on leave. What's more, an airman too was confirmed with COVID-19 today. This led to the isolation of over 50 people who came into contact with him.
Before the sudden spike in the number of coronavirus cases in Sri Lanka, where individuals in the excess of 20 tested positive on a daily basis, the number of COVID-19 patients detected regularly had been somewhat low. In the first week following the detection of the country's first COVID-19 patient, 42 infected people were identified. In the second week, 59 infections were detected, and in the third week, 41 cases were reported. In the fourth week, the number of new infections stood at 42, and in the fifth week, 48 people were diagnosed. In the sixth week, 77 new cases of infections were identified. It, however, is noteworthy that 213 new infections were detected by yesterday, the fifth day of the seventh week. The highest number of cases detected on a single day was also yesterday, with 63 patients being identified. 5 among them are Navy personnel.
නාවික හමුදාවේ පවුල්වල සමාජිකයන් 58 දෙනෙකු නාවික හමුදාව විසින් පවත්වාගෙන ලබන මිහින්තලේ සහ නිපුණ බූස් යන නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථාන වෙත නිරෝධායන ක්‍රියාවලියක් සඳහා යොමු කරලා තිබ්බා. වැලිසර නාවික හමුදා කඳුරු තුල අදවන විට කොවිඩ් ආසාදිතයන්ගේ විරෝධාර රණවිරුවන් සංඛ්‍යාව 112ක් කඳුරෙන්ද පිටත නිවාඩු සිටිය අයවලුන්ගෙන් රණවිරුවන් 68 දෙනෙක්ද වශයෙන් සම්පූර්ණ සංඛ්‍යාව 180ක් බවට පත් වෙලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ වගේම COVID-19 ක්‍රියාන්විත මධ්‍යස්ථානයේ වෙතින් මේ වන විට ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ COVID සම්බන්ධයෙන් වූ සියලුම කාරණා විස්තර ඇතුළත් වූ covid19.government.lk නම් වූ වෙබ් අඩවියක් සකස් කරලා තිබෙනවා. එය අද දිනේ සිට මෙයින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ COVID-19 සම්බන්ධ වූ සියලුම වාර්තාවන් ලබා ගැනීමට හැකියාව තිබෙනවා.
In such a backdrop, around 20 to 30 family members and associates of 2 COVID-19 infected Navy personnel of the Valisara Navy base were quarantined. They also underwent a PCR test today. Meanwhile, a PCR test conducted at the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital has confirmed that a 25-year-old youth from Alapara of Saliyapura in Anuradhapura has been infected with COVID-19. Investigations carried out by the public health inspectors of the area revealed that 2 Navy personnel from the Valisara Navy base who were on leave are from his neighbourhood. Both naval personnel have reported to duty at the Valisara camp. Meanwhile, the father of the infected youth in Saliyapura is also hospitalized with a health condition. This has led to area residents of 25 families being instructed to self-isolate. In the meantime, the wife and a nephew of the COVID-19 infected seaman in the area of Dahatunamara in Sevanagala have also contracted the virus. Hence, health authorities have taken measures to isolate 5 villagers in the Dahatunamara area. In Kamburupitiya, the emergency treatment unit of the base hospital there was disinfected today and 8 of its employees were quarantined after one of the unit's nurses had received the service of a salon run by the wife of a seaman who tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, a soldier from the Valisara Navy base had arrived home in the area of Henahata in Biyagama on the 18th of April. Upon exhibiting symptoms, he had undergone a PCR test at the Ragama hospital, following which he tested positive for coronavirus. With his medical report suggesting that he is COVID-19 positive, several places he frequented in Biyagama including Pratibhamavata, Divulgahamavata and Malvatta Road were isolated. These areas are home to about 1,000 persons belonging to 350 families. By 2 o'clock this afternoon, 34 fresh cases of COVID-19 were reported and all of them were Navy personnel. Meanwhile, a corporal attached to the Sri Lanka Air Force base in Katunayaka was diagnosed with the virus while being quarantined at the hospital of the base. The Air Force had taken steps to quarantine the corporal after he participated in a music program alongside 2 members of the Valisara Navy base band. Those 2 naval personnel, however, have not contracted the virus. 62 people are now under quarantine after coming into contact with the Air Force corporal. Meanwhile, another relative of the Porutota COVID-19 patient who succumbed to the virus has tested positive. He was being quarantined at the Poonani quarantine facility. 3 of his relatives had also contracted the virus. With a detection of 58 new cases today, the epidemiology unit places the country's total number of infections at 581. Among them, however, are 448 active cases. With 6 more people being discharged from hospital after recovering from the virus today, the number of total recoveries also rose to 126. 295 persons, however, are still under medical observation.
Now, a special presidential task force has been established to ensure the health safety within camps of Triforces. The task force will be headed by Governor of Western Province, Marshal of the Air Force Roshan Gunatilaka. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa held a discussion with retired heads of security and specialist doctors at the Presidential Secretariat this morning to identify measures needed to safeguard health at military camps. Accordingly, the task force will undertake formulating a plan to ensure complete health security within camps and implementing and monitoring the said plan. The President said that safeguarding Triforces personnel is equally important as protecting citizens from the virus. Further, the specialist team was also instructed to produce a report by observing camps of the Triforces.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Now, the curfew in 21 districts will be temporarily lifted tomorrow at 5 a.m., giving some semblance of normalcy to daily life. The curfew, which was initially supposed to be lifted this morning, remained in effect in order to facilitate the return of Triforces personnel on leave for duty. As a window of free movement looms tomorrow, police urge public to strictly adhere to safety protocols, as non-adherence will be met with arrest.
As per the latest statement issued by the President's Media Division last evening, the curfew is in effect island-wide today to facilitate the movement of Triforces personnel on leave who have been issued directives to return to their respective camps. Accordingly, the curfew, which was supposed to be lifted for 21 districts this morning, will be lifted tomorrow at 5 a.m. and will be reimposed at 8 p.m. on the same day. After the curfew is lifted tomorrow in 21 districts, people will have to adhere to a roster when leaving home, even for essential matters. The roster is based on the last digit of their national identity cards. This, however, does not apply to essential service providers or people setting off for employment. According to the roster, those with numbers 1 or 2 as the last digit of their ID cards can leave home on Mondays. On Tuesdays, those with numbers 3 or 4 as the last digits on their ID cards will be allowed to leave home. Likewise, on Wednesdays, people with numbers 5 and 6 as their ID cards' last digits will be permitted to leave home. As the pattern goes on Thursday, numbers 7 and 8 will be given the privilege of leaving home, and on Friday, those with numbers 9 or 0 as the last digit of their ID cards will be allowed to leave their residences. The curfew in 21 districts except in Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Puttalam will be lifted at 5 a.m. and reimposed at 8 p.m. on a daily basis until Friday the 1st of May. As for the 4 districts of Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Puttalam, the curfew will remain in effect until Monday the 4th of May. Since the curfew was imposed today to facilitate the movement of Tri-Forces personnel on leave to return to their respective army camps for duty, military personnel were seen at city limits awaiting transport. According to our correspondent, the 2nd Battalion of the Singha Regiment in Kandy provided transport to military personnel in the district to reach their respective camps. With a curfew in effect island-wide today, police was on alert to apprehend curfew violators as well as those who do not adhere to safety protocols put in place by the government. Curfew violations and misuse of curfew passes have become an issue for law enforcement authorities. Since the initial imposition of the curfew on the 20th of March, 40,095 people have been arrested, mostly for curfew violations, while 10,332 vehicles were also seized.
හෙට ඇඳිරි නීති ඉවත් කරන ප්‍රදේශවලදී පොලිසිය නිල ඇඳුමින් වගේම සිවිල් ඇඳුමින් නිලධාරීන් යොදවලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මෙතෙක් කල් අපි අත්අඩංගුවට ගනු ලැබුවේ ඇඳිරි නීති කඩ කරන්නන් සහ ඇඳිරි නීති බලපත්‍ර උල්ලංඝනය කරන්නන් පමණයි. නමුත් හෙට දිනේ සිට අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා ඇඳිරි නීති ඉවත් කළ කාලය තුල වුවද සමාජ දුරස්ථභාවය පවත්වාගෙන යන්නේ නැත්නම් කණ්ඩායම් හැටියට පොදු ස්ථානවල හෝ පුද්ගලික ස්ථානවල ගැවසෙනවා නම් රැස්වීම් පවත්වනවා නම් ඒ වගේම විශේෂයෙන්ම වෙළඳ සැල්වල ආර්ථික මධ්‍යස්ථානවල මේ ආකාරයට කටයුතු කරනවා නම්
Meanwhile, in Kalaniya, a lorry transporting cement had toppled over the Pattiya junction during wee hours of this morning, causing damage to a nearby shop. According to our correspondent, the lorry had skidded after toppling over and had also caused serious damage to a van and a scooter parked nearby. The driver of the lorry was hospitalized with injuries.
Now, Sri Lanka received a second consignment of medical equipment from China today as it was handed over to the Ministry of Health. Chargé d'Affaires of the Chinese Embassy in Colombo said that the third batch of medical equipment is on its way and it contains 30,000 coronavirus test kits. He also emphasised that this is a crucial moment for Sri Lanka and urged all to unite in the fight against the virus. In the meantime, various services were also worked off today with some lapses also brought to light.
On the 17th of April, the Manning Market in Colombo was closed, taking into consideration the risk of spread of COVID-19. Its Traders Association says that due to the requests from farmers and traders, the market will be open for wholesale trading.
නැවතත් වෙළඳපොළ විවෘත කිරීම සඳහා කටයුතු සූදානම් කරලා තිනවා 29 දින උදේ පාන්දර 4 සිට පස්වරු 1 දක්වා පමණක් අපේ ව්‍යාපාරික කටයුතු කරන බැවින් වෙනදා ගෙනන තොග ප්‍රමාණය අඩු කර වෙළඳපොළට එළවලු සපයා ගන්නා ලෙස ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා සියලුම ජංගම ව්‍යාපාරිකයන් සඳහා ඇතුළේම සපුරා තහනම් බවට පත් කරනවා.
In the meantime, the Narayampeta Dedicated Economic Centre, which was closed for decontamination recently, was reopened at 6 a.m. today for both wholesale and retail trading. In Maharagama, the public health inspectors and other health officials worked off an awareness program for mobile traders there and in the vicinity. 78 mobile traders had been put under scrutiny during the program, and from which only 11 had been licensed to do business.
අග්ලවුස් නැතුව නැවත එන්න එපා මාක්ස් නැතුව එන්න එපා Tamange වෙළඳාම කරන පාරිභෝගිකයන්ට ඒ නිශ්චිත දුර තියාගෙන උවමනාවෙන් කැපවීමෙන් මේ කාර්යය ඉටු කරන මෙන්න ඔයගොල්ලන්ට නැවතත් මමත් දැනුම් දෙනවා.
අපි මේ අවස්ථාවේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ස්තුති කරනවා මේ රට අසීරුතාවයට පත් වෙච්ච වෙලාවේ ජනතාවට ආහාර ලබා දීම සම්බන්ධව. හැබැයි ඒ වගේම ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ යුතුයකමක් තියෙනවා මේ දෙන ආහාර සෞඛ්‍ය වගේම කොරෝනාත් බෝන වෙන ආහාර වෙන්න ඕන.
Meanwhile, we came across a community which is suffering hardships as the government's 5,000 rupee relief allowance is yet to reach them. Although it had been announced that the allowance will be provided to 347 people in Anyakanda today, the Grama Niladhari did not arrive.
ගන්න බැරි අය දවස් 4 සිටින්න මේ රස්තියාදු වෙනවා. දවස් 5 මේවා අතර මේවා දිය යුතු දේවල්නේ. ඒලානේ මේ අපි ඔක්කොම දුප්පත් කට්ටිය අපි ඔක්කොම හිර වෙලා තියෙනවා. සමුද්‍රය එක්කලා බෙදලා තියෙන්නේ සමුද්‍රි සභාපතිත් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා එයාලට ඕනේ අයට. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ නෑදෑයන්ට මෙහෙම බෑනේ.
Media personnel were also present at the scene and an investigative officer from the Gampaha district secretariat arrived and ensured that the locals were given the allowance. In the meantime, it was also revealed that the application for the relief allowance is being sold for 20 rupees.
පොම් කීයක් කිව්වද? පොම් කොල කොහොමද? 150ක් විතර. පොම් කොල 150 රුපියල් 150ක් කුල දිනවා. නෑ 20 ගානේ මේ 10 ගානේ. 10යි 20ට ගත්තා තියෙනවා. 20ට ගත්තා ඊට පස්සේ මම ගිහිල්ලා ගෙනාවා. ගෙනල්ලා හකලා ගැහුවේ රුපියල් 8යි. 8ට ගෙනපුවාම ඉතින් වාහනේ යන්න පෙට්‍රල් මිල මේ බලන්න එපා. ඊට පස්සේ මම ඒක රුපියල් 10 විකුණලා බෑ. මදි හින්දා රුපියල් 20 ගානේ වික්කම. පොම් එක. ඒතර ඒක 20 ගානේ විකුණන්න කිව්වේ කවුද ඔයාලට? සමුද්‍රි නියාමක.
On a separate development, a consignment of medical and protective health gear valued at over 211 million rupees donated from China was handed over to Minister of Health Pavitra Vanyarachi by the acting ambassador of China today.
This is a crucial moment for Sri Lanka. We noticed recently the numbers of confirmed cases increasing, but don't worry, China is with you, our Sri Lanka friends. At this moment, we have the second batch from China central government with a lot of medical supplies, and we are still working on the third batch. And all of this includes those urgent needed medical supplies like test kits, like PPEs. We talked with our colleagues in your Ministry of Health. We know that what is mostly urgent need from your side. What we should do is not criticize each other, not blame each other, not accuse each other, but unite together to work harder to fight against the virus. The virus is the enemy of the humankind. The third batch of China aid is on the way, which includes at least another 30,000 test kits and some other more medical supplies, which are mostly urgent needed by your medical teams. And of course, we are also talking with your government about the economic recovery and any other need from your side.
Meanwhile, an engineer at the Sri Lanka Transport Board has come up with a mechanical creation where passengers are decontaminated when they board a bus. On a similar note, a robotic machine which enables remote communication with COVID-19 infected persons has been created by 3 students from several universities. The machine was given to the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital today.
We will see you again shortly after this break. Stay tuned.
නිෂ්පාදිත දිනය කවදත් අලුත් වටවල තේ අරගන්න.
වටවල තේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තේ එක.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, a request made by the Ministry of Health for 1,000 body bags had become a contentious talking point in recent days, and today, Director General of Health Services gave clarity to the matter, putting it to bed. With the sharp increase in COVID-19 infections in the country, a decision has also been made to incorporate the medical faculties of 4 universities in PCR testing, which will add a further 1,000 daily tests.
The government's focus has fallen on incorporating the medical faculties of universities in the PCR testing process, which will boost the number of daily tests. A discussion in this regard under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was worked off today with the participation of health sector chiefs, university vice-chancellors, university medical section heads. Accordingly, PCR testing is set to be increased, centering the medical faculties and laboratories at the universities of Colombo, Peradeniya, Sri Jayawardhanapura and Batticaloa. This move will enable a further 1,000 daily PCR tests. Meanwhile, Deputy Director General of Health Services Dr. Amal Harsha De Silva convened a media briefing today and revealed that measures will be taken to order 200,000 test kits in a bid to increase the amount of PCR testing in the country.
සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශගරු අමාත්‍යතුමිය පවිත්‍ර වන්නියාති මැතිනිය විශේෂයෙන් අපිට ටෙස්ට් කිට්ස් ලක්ෂ 2ක් මිලදී ගැනීමක් කරන්නයි කියලා. ටෙස්ටිං වැඩි කරන්න තමයි දැන් අපි සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම උත්සාහයක් ගන්න. ඊයේ දවසේ ගත්තොත් 1000කට ආසන්න ටෙස්ට් ප්‍රමාණයක් ලංකාවේ කරලා තියෙනවා.
In the meantime, a request made by the Ministry of Health from the International Committee of Red Cross for 1,000 body bags had caused a stir recently. The request made on the 24th of this month gained heavy focus on social media, with various interpretations of the matter being circulated. Giving clarity to the matter, however, Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinghe says that there should not be any cause for fear.
මේ බොඩි බෑග් කියලා කියන්නේ COVID-19 සඳහාම පමණක් මේ අලුතෙන් නිර්මාණය වූ දෙයක් නෙවෙයි. මේ බොඩි බෑග් භාවිතයේ ජාත්‍යන්තර වශයෙන් එදා ඉඳලම ඇති වුණු දෙයක්. උදාහරණයක් හැටියට අර ඊස්ටර් ප්‍රහාරයේදීත් භාවිතා කරා බොඩි බෑග්. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා ඕනෑම දෙයකදී పూర్ව සූදානම පමණක් නෙවෙයි මේ ඕනෑම දෙයක් සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ සතුව ඒ ගබඩා මට්ටම් පවත්වා ගත යුතුයි. ඒ සඳහා ICRCකින් අවස්ථාවක් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අවස්ථාව ප්‍රයෝජනයට ගැනීම තමයි සිදු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි කිසිසේත් මෙවැනි මරණ ගණන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපේ මරණ අනුපාතය ඉතාම අඩුයි.
Now, Sri Lankan Airlines has clarified details of social media posts that are circulating, implying that the airline has charged an excessive sum of money from passengers who were on a specially operated flight to repatriate stranded Sri Lankan students from India to Sri Lanka. The carrier cited various special costs incurred in the repatriation flight, operated at a time when most airports are shut.
Sri Lankan Airlines says that the relevant flight was a ferry flight out of Sri Lanka and departed India with an overall cabin factor of 50% or less. In a statement, it went on to say that when operating to destinations that the airline does not currently fly to, as in the case of Kathmandu and Amritsar, the operating costs such as landing, parking, ground handling, etc. are incurred at prevailing rates in the absence of service contracts with suppliers. As such, Sri Lankan says that costs are relatively higher and main operating costs are beyond the control of the airline and are incurred despite lower cabin factors. Giving further clarification, the national carrier noted that since most airports have shut down, Sri Lankan Airlines had to carry fuel from Colombo for the return journey, catering services and organize standby ground services for any unforeseen emergency. The special repatriation flight was also operated under special COVID-19 airline operational procedures, thus being subjected to a further increase in expenses that include the use of personal protective equipment for staff, deep cleaning, fogging and demisting procedures to disinfect aircraft, etc. When the total cost is divided among lesser number of passengers, the airline says that the per passenger cost is substantially higher. The airline had to quote fares that were purely based on costs for the special repatriation flight, unlike general market fares that are based on market dynamics.
The results of the GCE Ordinary Level Examination for the year 2019 were released this evening. Commissioner General of Examinations Sanath B. Pujita says that 73.84% of students have qualified for the advanced level examination. A total of 717,246 applied for the ordinary level examination, while 556,256 sat for it. Commissioner General of Examinations added that 66.82% of students have passed mathematics. Meanwhile, 10,346 students have received 9A passes at the examination. Department of Examination states that 717,008 candidates faced the examination last year, which was held from the 2nd to the 12th of December. It added that 433,189 school applicants sat for the exam, while 284,057 candidates were private applicants. Now, the World Bank says that the global economic shock of COVID-19 pandemic has driven most commodity prices down and is expected to result in substantially lower prices over 2020. In its April commodity markets outlook, the World Bank cautioned that the economic impact of the pandemic will dampen demand and cause supply disruptions, and negatively affecting developing countries that rely heavily on commodities.
The World Bank's Commodity Markets Outlook for April notes that commodities associated with transportation, including oil, have experienced the steepest declines amid the COVID-19 pandemic. It adds that despite only moderate impacts on the outlook for most agricultural commodities, supply chain disruptions and government steps to restrict exports or stockpile commodities raise concerns that food security may be at risk in places. World Bank Group Vice President for Equitable Growth, Finance and Institutions, Seyla Pazarbagiolu, was quoted saying that in addition to the devastating human toll, the economic impact of the pandemic will dampen demand and cause supply disruptions, negatively affecting developing countries that rely heavily on commodities. He goes on to say that policymakers can take advantage of lower oil prices by undertaking energy subsidy reforms to help free spending for urgent pandemic-related purposes, and that these reforms need to be complemented with stronger social safety nets to protect the most vulnerable segments of society. The report says that agriculture prices are less tied to economic growth and saw only minor declines in the first quarter of 2020 except for rubber, which is used in transportation. Prices are expected to remain broadly stable in 2020 overall, as production levels and stocks of most staple foods are at record highs. However, agricultural commodity production could face disruptions to the trade and distribution of inputs such as fertilizer, pesticides and labor availability. The report also says that disruptions of supply chains have already affected emerging markets and developing country exports of perishable products. World Bank Vice President for Infrastructure Mukhtar Diop believes that the international community must rally together to address these setbacks by advancing interventions in diverse sources of energy, sustainable transport and access to digital infrastructure and services that allow people to stay connected during these uncertain times. He adds that this will be key to delivering vital social services, protecting jobs, supporting business and saving lives.
The chief executive of Airbus has issued a stark assessment of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the plane maker. In a letter to workers, he warned the company was bleeding cash at an unprecedented speed. This month, the firm announced it was cutting aircraft production by a third. It comes as the aviation industry is expected to shrink significantly in the wake of the COVID-19 outbreak. He also told Airbus's 135,000 staff to brace for potentially deep job cuts and warned that its survival was at stake without immediate action. Airbus is due to deliver financial results for the first quarter of the year, and those figures will be overshadowed by the pandemic that has left global airlines struggling to survive and almost completely halted plane deliveries since lockdowns which started in March. We will see you again after this break. Bear with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Saudi Arabia will no longer impose the death penalty for crimes committed by minors after effectively abolishing floggings as the kingdom seeks to blunt criticism over its human rights record. The announcement, citing a royal decree by King Salman, comes 2 days after the country said it would ban flogging. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, signed by Riyadh, says capital punishment should not be used for offences carried out by minors. According to activists, Saudi Arabia has one of the world's worst human rights records. They say freedom of expression is severely curtailed and critics of the government are subject to what they say is arbitrary arrest. According to human rights group Amnesty International, a record 184 people were executed in the kingdom in 2019. And at least one case involves a man convicted of a crime committed when he was a minor. Now, New Zealand says it has stopped community transmission of COVID-19, effectively eliminating the virus. With the new cases in single figures for several days, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says that the virus is currently eliminated. Officials, however, have warned against complacency, saying it does not mean a total end to new coronavirus cases. The news came hours before New Zealand moved out of its toughest level of social restrictions. From tomorrow, some non-essential business, healthcare and education activity will be able to resume in the country. Most people will still be required to remain at home at all times and avoid all social interactions. New Zealand has reported 1,469 confirmed cases of coronavirus and 19 deaths. Now in sports news, Pakistan batsman Umar Akmal has been banned from all forms of cricket for 3 years after failing to report corrupt approaches. The Pakistan Cricket Board said that the ban was imposed by its disciplinary panel following a hearing today. The PCB had charged him with 2 breaches of its anti-corruption code for not reporting 2 unrelated approaches. Akmal, who was provisionally suspended in February, refused an earlier hearing before the Anti-Corruption Tribunal. Akmal, the youngest of 3 brothers to play for Pakistan at full international level, scored a Test century on debut aged 19 in 2009 and has played in 16 Tests, 121 one-day internationals and 84 T20 internationals. Yet he has been in and out of the national side in recent years and has had several disciplinary issues, including failing fitness tests and being banned for 3 matches in 2017 for criticising then coach Mickey Arthur. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.